Hey folks, this is Steve with Nonprofit Ally, and I have on the Zoom line, I have the CIO, who's the Chief Idea Officer. He's also the co-founder of Getaway to Give. Getaway to Give is a getawaytogive.net. And it's a large organization. They do a lot of things, but kind of to sum it up, basically they are the largest provider of vacation homes for nonprofits in order to help them raise money. Now that's a really brief synopsis, and we're going to get into this right away here with Adam, and he can explain a little more on how he's doing. Adam, thanks for being here.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Steve.
Was that a good, you guys are a large organization. You've done like $10 million worth of donations, and I tried to wrap it up in one sentence. Was I even close?
No, you got it. That was perfect.
Okay, good. You said no at first. I'm like, no, what'd I do? Well, awesome, man. So I am on your website now, actually having a look at it. Folks, again, it's at Getaway to Give, and that's the number 2, not TOO or TWO, but Getaway to number 2 give.net. Check out their site. When I first look at this site, I think I am looking for a vacation. It looks like a vacation planning tourism site that maybe my my vacation broker, whoever, sent me to. So tell me a little bit about your approach on what you guys are doing and how this site helps you achieve that.
Absolutely. So our mission is to be the best in the country at helping charities and schools raise money. And so far we've been doing that by using vacation packages, typically in live auctions, to help raise money for charities and schools. And the way we do it is we have long-term leases right now on 34 different private residences ranging from 2 to 5 bedrooms. And that's in 24 different destinations. So we've got everything from cities like New York, Chicago, San Francisco, London, Miami, New Orleans, to beach destinations in Mexico and the Caribbean, Southern California, to mountain destinations for skiing, and then to leisure. So places like Napa Valley, Sonoma, and Palmetto Bluff, South Carolina. So we've got all these vacation homes that we lease, and then we package them up either individually, or it could be what we call a winner's choice, where at a charity event, somebody can bid on, let's say, going to one of 5 different 2-bedroom oceanfront beach destinations, like Costa Rica, Belize, Cabo. They'd have a choice of where they want to go. And we sell those packages. I think where we've tried to really innovate in the nonprofit sector is at auctions. Most auction items will sell once or sometimes twice. And we've set this up so that we can sell these packages 5 times, 10 times, 15 times. I think our record is 24. And that way, with one item and not a lot of time, usually under 3 minutes, we are able to raise between $10,000 and $100,000 for the charities.
Right. So let me kind of summarize this so I can get my head around it and kind of dive deeper in it. So basically you have a long team lease of vacation rentals that you've kind of acquired throughout the country and the world. And
right.
then you kind of resell them, or you release them out as weekend stays or package things like that, that are available for live auction, which means in person, like there's actually a person there selling them at a charity event on behalf, or some type of net is some type of funding goes towards the nonprofit based on that donation then.
Exactly. So just to give an example, if we have a winner's choice package of a number of different destinations that the winners can choose from, they have up to 18 months to travel. Let's say the reserve is $3,750. We work with professional benefit auctioneers, and they may sell that package 10 times at $7,000. So that would end up netting the charity about $32,000.
Right. That's pretty incredible. Now, you mentioned, it's funny because we just did a podcast just recently on innovation and what it means to be innovation. And like I wrote this down as you were speaking, that this is an innovative idea. And then you mentioned that you're being innovative by being able to sell the same item multiple times. Now, I'm assuming by multiple times, you're meaning that it's because of the availability of dates, or are these somehow packaged multiple times and it's the exact same product?
No, it's the way it works. Let's say again back to our example where we've got a number of different beach destinations to choose from. If we have 10 winners, we'll contact those winners and go, where do you want to go and when do you want to go, and let's work out. Obviously it's first come first serve, so their dates may not be available in one destination, may be available in another, or if they're flexible, they want to go on a beach vacation in January. We say, okay, here's the 3 different spots that are open. Which one would you like? And we book them. So it's not, generally it's not the same times. And, typically in an auction, auctioneers are trying to sell the item one time, usually because a lot of auctioneers come from real estate or auto or cattle, in which case they're selling something once. They've got one car or one home or whatever to sell. Well, with our packages, whether it's an individual destination or a winner's choice, we don't have that limit. And so what we looked at is why sell it once if we can move, basically what we're doing is looking to move money that is in most people's travel budgets and shift some of that over into their philanthropy budgets, if you will, or money that they're going to end up, they're getting a great trip that they want to go on and they're helping the cause at the same time. So if we can do that for 10 people, even if the price is a little bit lower, we're focused on how do we raise the most money for the charity, not how do we sell the item for the most one time.
This is a really great idea. I love what you guys are doing. How long has this been around?
So we started the company, Get Away to Give, in 2012, and we actually started by selling memberships. So some of your listeners may be familiar with the concept of a destination club. So we also have a destination club, which basically means people can pay money to join and have access to all of the homes that we have in the collection. And that's how we started. And we said, we're going to sell memberships for $15,000. And then we're going to take half of that money, $7,500, and send it in cash to the charity or charities that the member designated. And our hope was we'll get a lot of nonprofits to help us sell those memberships. And what we realized pretty quickly was nonprofits really aren't in the business of sales and marketing for other organizations like ours, even if it benefits them. So we struggled that way. We were sending half of our revenue out the door. That was unsustainable. We weren't going to be around if we continued doing that. So we shifted and I'd say we pivoted so that we could help these charities raise money and grow at the same time in a way that was sustainable. And we did that by taking that same $7,500 and buying trips and donating the trips. And we wanted to see what would happen if we take a trip, again, let's say a trip that's has a reserve cost of $37.50. What would happen if it's donated at a charity? Will it go for more than $37.50? The first time we tried it, it was an event for a school with children that have autism in Midland, Texas. And we sold the package a few times, I think, for $15,000, which was, 400% return on just writing a check for $37.50. So we said, maybe there's something here. And the more we've done it, we're typically, that's not our average. Our average is somewhere between 50 and 100% more than the reserve cost. So we're able to generate money for ourselves and be sustainable and profitable while helping organizations who oftentimes struggle to find compelling, unique auction items, especially ones that they can sell more than once or twice.
Great. There is one question I'm sure every listener is thinking right now, and I'm gonna do a little tease, and I'm not even gonna ask it until the end. But I know a lot of you are thinking this right now, so just hang on, folks.
Now you gotta be curious.
Yeah, hang on and be curious. So here's the thing. One question is, if I donate $5,000 for something that might be valued at $37 or whatever, this is tax deductible, a portion of it's tax deductible? How does that work for the actual donor? What's the...
So I'm not a CPA and can't give tax advice, but my understanding is that everything over and above the fair market value would be tax deductible. So I think typically if you spend $5,000 on an item that has a reserve of $3,750, it would be $1,250 would be the deductible portion.
I got you. That sounds about right. I'm not a CPA in any ways either. Now you had mentioned something too, and I just want to touch on this because this is something I bring up quite a bit during my podcast, at least half of this. You mentioned sales and marketing is not really what nonprofits tend to do for other organizations. And I actually find a lot of times they don't do it well for themselves either, because it's hard to, it's hard to be sales and it's hard to do marketing. Those are expertise that need to be learned. At the same time, it's hard to convince donors that this is worth putting money towards, or board members that you need to put money towards the marketing of your program, or learn how to be a salesperson, right? Yeah, that's always something I think nonprofits struggle with in general. It's interesting that you had that experience yourself in developing your first business model, which kind of revolved around that, and realized that might not be what the nonprofits can provide.
Completely agree, Steve. And by the way, I think that's one of the things that we're working on is helping these organizations with their sales and marketing. So one of the things we try and do is provide them with all the marketing materials, slideshows, pictures, help them before the event figure out how to pre-promote items, how to use it to get other donated items, to get more people to come to their events. This is what we feel we're really good at, is sales and marketing. And to your point, I think most organizations are amazing at solving the social problems or dealing with the cause that is the reason they started the organization. But they're not necessarily experts at everything. And sales and marketing, as you said, is very difficult. And it's hard to find people who are really have a lot of experience and are great at that. So if we can, come in and help in those areas, that's an area we try and add value as well.
Nice. Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because that kind of segues into the next thing I was going to go through. I'm going through your website and I can see all the different people that work for you. And I realize you have different departments. You have, basically you have travel agents, you have the fundraising department, you have the guest services, you have your director of fundraising. So you've kind of covered a whole, you're dealing with two sides of a coin here. It's the charities you're working with, but it's also the people that you're getting these leases from. Can you tell me more about how your department, I don't know if you call them departments or not, but different branches of within your services that you provide, what they provide for the nonprofits, how do they reach out to them? What do you, just what you said, you're providing some type of material or guidance?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have different departments. It starts with our what we call charity fundraising directors. So the CFDs for short. And ultimately, we plan on having CFDs on the ground, boots on the ground, in every major market, probably the top 25 markets or so. Right now, we're in about 10 markets, major markets from New York City, Chicago, Southern California, Dallas, Atlanta, Houston, Denver. So we've got people on the ground, and we think that's important because we're really trying to create long-term partnerships with organizations to help them in their fundraising. What we are not trying to do is get on the phone and sell trips. Mm-hmm. That is not what our mission is. Our mission, as I mentioned, is to be the best in the country at helping charities and schools raise money. And our vision is to raise $1 billion every decade. If we're going to raise $1 billion every decade, we feel we have to really be partners with the organizations, and therefore be either in their home city or at least in driving distance where we can come and sit down, meet with the executive director, meet with the development director, meet with the auction chair, and really help put together a comprehensive plan for how we're going to move the needle to the tune of $10,000 to $100,000 at their event.
Right. So you're actually sending a team of people ahead of time to the organization which you'll be doing this for and setting up a strategic plan, what's involved in that process, and how soon in advance? Does that make sense? Soon in advance do you do that?
Yeah. I mean, for larger organizations that plan their events, 6 months to a year in advance, we'll work with them on that level. Typical is usually 1 to 3 months out. For better or worse, oftentimes the live auction items are one of the last things that kind of get nailed down. They've got to pick the venue, they've got to figure out, the food and beverage and the entertainment. Usually we recommend that they all hire professional benefit auctioneers, and that's usually done pretty far in advance, and there's limited schedules. These top auctioneers, some of them have teams, but oftentimes if the date is taken, you'll lose them. So those things tend to be done farther in advance, and then they start working on silent auction items, live auction items. So we've worked, we don't prefer this, but we've done, helped organizations as late as a day or two before their event. Typically it's a month to 3 months out. And so we don't have a team yet. We have a team, but not in each city. Mm-hmm. We have charity fundraising directors that individuals that will be in a New York or Chicago or what have you, and they'll go sit down and meet with the organization. And we're not there actually to sell them anything. We're there to determine if we can help them or not. And oftentimes we can't. We're not a good fit for everybody. If we don't think we can raise them $10,000, it's probably not worth our time or theirs. So we're really looking to move the needle and make a major difference in their live auction and in the money that they net at their event. So to your question about departments, once the event occurs, and oftentimes we are present at the event, the charity fundraising director is there helping, volunteering, doing whatever needs to be done to maximize fundraising. After the event occurs and we get the names, we actually have an account manager assigned to every event. The account manager contacts the charity. They actually talk to them before the event to make sure they've got all their marketing materials, videos, slideshow, answer any questions, make sure they've got everything they need. Then we get the winners' names, and then that's passed on to our member services division. So we've got our guest experience managers, kind of like concierges, or I think you said travel agents. And they are, actually our team is all based in Denver. It just happens to be that way, even though our company is out of Atlanta. We have an amazing team of guest experience managers who will then reach out to the winners and book their trips and take care of everything. And this is one thing that we've found we need to offer, because most nonprofits, they're not in the business of fulfilling vacation packages that they sell, and they don't want to be, and they shouldn't be. So we make it turnkey. We take all of that off of their hands. And our goal is to make sure every one of them goes on their trip, has an amazing experience, and then actually we close the loop and let the charity know about that, so they have that warm and fuzzy feeling that their donors were taken, we took great care of them, that they had an amazing vacation experience, and that they'll want to come back next year and do it all over again or buy a different item.
Yeah. Boy, the nonprofit could really use that connection with them after they come back for a bit of storytelling, Facebook posting. John and Susie went to the Philippines or whatever. Here's a vacation shot of them on the beach. They had a great time. They supported us getting new computers or whatever, right? Like there's some stories to be told there, and get people excited for that opportunity to come again the next year.
And if you look on our website and scroll down, you'll see posts, and we really encourage people to post on social media with photos and videos of their vacation experiences. So we do try and really promote the organizations on our website and to our universe and our members as well.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, you got a nice little widget on there. I'm looking at the website now. It's on my head's turned, but Yeah, you're able to scroll through kind of all the different social media channels you're on, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and see. I'm assuming these are straight your posts that you're pulling in, not people that hashtag you.
Both.
A little bit about. Oh yeah, I do see hashtag G2G. Oh great.
Yep.
Or getaway too. You're in there. And G2G experience, is that your hashtag?
Yes.
G2G experiences. That's the number 2. That's the hashtag if you want to tag them, and at getaway to give. Hey, you mentioned that some of the nonprofits, or I think you might have even said most of the nonprofits don't really are a good fit. They don't meet the criteria. I don't know if that's the right word. That makes what you're doing a good fit for what they're looking to have done. So what is that criteria?
Sure. Well, first of all, right now, and this could change in the future, we're looking at ways of helping really any organization raise money online. But right now, we operate at live auctions. So if an organization doesn't have an event, they don't have a live auction, it's difficult for us to really help them. So we start with, galas, fundraisers where there's events, and they either are doing a live auction or sometimes they haven't done one before, but they've got the right audience and they want to do a live auction, and we can help them with that. We really can help the organizations with 2 out of the 3 what we call critical success factors to event fundraising. Mm-hmm. So for us, those critical success factors that we've seen are, number 1, you've got to have the right audience, right? You've got to have people in the room who are willing to open their pocketbooks and spend money at the event. So you've got to have the right audience there, and we can't really influence that much. We're not in the business of marketing and promoting individual organizations' events, but most of them have boards and people on committees and the wherewithal to invite supporters and donors and bring them to the event. So that's kind of on the organization. The other 2 we can help with. So if there is the right audience, you then need to have the right items for that audience. For us, that's what we've seen is that's vacation packages. Why? Because most people want to go on a vacation at some point, and they do spend money on vacations, and it's kind of something that's not too specific and would rule out a bunch of people. For example, I know at live auctions, a lot of organizations will have jewelry, fine jewelry or fine art. And we think that is really narrowing your audience, because not only is it people that are interested in purchasing art or jewelry at an event, but they've got to actually really love that piece of art or jewelry. And you're really narrowing the audience. What we try and do is get the broadest number of people that would be interested in an item. And we've found that travel, and when you give flexibility, so you can go to any of 20 different destinations, well, that should catch a lot of people there. Mm-hmm. So having the right items is the second critical success factor. And then the third is having the right person to deliver those items to that audience. And as I mentioned earlier, excuse me, we believe that's a professional benefit auctioneer. And we've seen, we get to benefit because we've seen so many events, and we've seen so many things, in terms of what works and what doesn't work. And by far, the most important best practice we've seen to raise money at an event is to hire a professional benefit auctioneer. Now, I've talked to organizations over and over again that say, we can get Steve or Jim or Sue to do it for free. He's a weatherman or she's on our board. And the challenge with, yes, it's free. So I know that sounds good, no cost. But the problem is they don't do this every day, every weekend, and they haven't been doing it for years, typically. And they're not experts in it, and they're not professionals. Mm-hmm. So the difference is Jim or Sue, who's free, might raise $20,000 in a live auction and $50,000 in a fund a need. And then we see a professional benefit auctioneer come in the next year and raise $100,000 in the live and $300,000 in the fund a need. I mean, the numbers are mind-boggling how much more they raise with a professional, and the return on investment is massive because most auctioneers are kind of charging between $2,500 and $5,000. Some of them are up to $10,000 if it's in a major market. But even at $10,000, if I'm an organization, I'd be happy to spend $10,000 if I'm going to get an additional 100 or even 50. So we think that that's a critical success factor. So if we have all three of those, we've got the right audience, the right items, and the right auctioneer, we can really move the needle. But you take away any one of those three and it gets really challenging.
Right. There's a little trifactor there, and I would say along the right person having the auctioneer kind of parallels what we were talking about with nonprofits and sales and marketing. It's not really their expertise, and if you bring in someone who doesn't have the expertise, then you're not going to do as well as you would if you did have that expertise. And an auctioneer could, I hate to use the word coax, but they could coax an extra $1,500 out of bidders because they know who's hot and who's ready and who to work, right? They would know that these people are into this. Whereas if I were doing it, I'd be like, oh my God, I'd hate to ask them for another $10. You know, I'm so happy they're giving me 100. So I could see where an auctioneer just has that professional focus in there.
Auctioneers also have done so many events and they know what works and what doesn't, that they think bigger. I've heard from many auctioneers that they'll be consulting because a lot of them do that and consult with the organization ahead of time and help them plan out the run of show and everything they need, you know, the marketing and who to bring and how to fill the room. And oftentimes I hear that they say, you know, what's the highest level you're going to ask for in the fund a need? And the organization says, oh, well, if we could get $2,500, that would be amazing. And, you know, the auctioneer says, well, what about 10,000? Oh, I don't think there's anyone that'll give 10,000. Well, we don't really know because we've never asked. So what if we ask and let's see what happens? And then they do it and 4 people raise their hand and give $10,000. You've just gotten $40,000 that, you know, you never get if you think too small. So I'm not saying that you should just, you know, say who wants to give $100,000 and have crickets. I think it's smart to pre-sell that, just like with auction items. The more you can get commitments ahead of time, then you can get the room going and some momentum. But these are all things that, you know, that we try and help with and professional benefit auctioneers help with.
That's great. Now, let's talk a little bit more about auctions because people do, or nonprofits certainly have them. And there's kind of many different ways to do them. One's at the live event. And at that live event, you could have a live auction or a silent auction. And you can also do online auctions. Can you give us kind of a rundown of those three? Or maybe I'm missing a type of auction in there. But those three, kind of pros and cons and maybe their best uses?
Absolutely. And I think, you know, I guess there's a fourth method of fundraising at events besides the silent, live, and online, which would be raffles. And, you know, there's big boards, there's some combos, but I would say your silent auction items are generally smaller. They're typically under $500 to $1,000. At larger events, you might have some items that are more than that. Silent auctions, it's tough to get bidding really going at a high level because, frankly, people aren't drinking yet, really, and there's not the competitive nature in the room that you get with a live auction. So silent auction items, you know, typically you can have a lot of them because it doesn't take up the time that a live auction does. So I've seen events that have over 100 silent auction items. Sometimes they're mostly or fully donated. Other times it's a company. There's many companies that provide sports memorabilia or, you know, that's typically it's autographs and pictures and memorabilia, things like that get auctioned. But again, these are usually $500 to $1,000 or less. And oftentimes the charity won't make a lot of money on those, certainly on them individually. Maybe if you sell enough of them, you can make some money. We've found that most of the money at an event in terms of in the room, I'm not talking about selling sponsorships and tickets, comes from the live auction and the fund a need. And what we found is that those really don't compete. People are either looking to spend money on something that they might do anyway, like a vacation, and also help the charity, or they just are going to write a big check that night in the fund a need. But we've seen live auction and fund a needs typically, oftentimes raise six figures or more. Sometimes, as much as $1 million or more. Whereas silent auctions generally don't get there. It's just too difficult. You'd have to have too many items selling at too much money.
Right,
so
right.
The math isn't there. I'm not saying that I think it's good to do all three. Why? Because there's different buyers. The person who's going to buy, a car wash or, a gift certificate to a spa or a hotel stay in the silent auction may not have the budget to bid on some of the bigger items in the live auction, or raise their hand at $10,000 in the fund a need. So what you want to do, what organizations want to do, is meet everybody where they are, so that everyone has an opportunity to participate and give and be engaged. And I was watching one of your other podcasts talking about planning events and asking for money.
Right.
And I do believe that one thing that organizations really need to figure out and get right is the thank you. What do you do after they've now bought a trip for $7,000? How do you cultivate that donor? How do you thank them? How do you follow up with them? It's so important. I think Donors Choose is probably the best example of an organization that I've seen that does the thank you right, because you donate money online and you get thank you notes from 30 children in a classroom that all got whatever you donated to them and on Donors Choose. And when a month later you open that envelope and get all those thank you notes, that's just an amazing thank you that keeps people engaged and wanting to continue to give.
Yeah. Now, the one thing, online auctions, same kind of thing. You're saying to make a combo of all this. So would you suggest having maybe an online auction to kind of generate some interest, as well as have a silent auction during the event, as well as having the live auction, like all different types of audiences?
Yeah, the mobile bidding companies, if organizations work with a mobile bidding company, they'll usually put the auction, at least the silent auction, online ahead of time, so that you can bid on it before the event. Or if you can't attend the event, you can bid on it still. So with technology today, basically it's made it easy to turn any silent auction into an online auction. So I guess when I'm talking about silent auctions, that applies to online auctions as well. There are some websites that specifically do online auctions. I think it can be difficult you have a much bigger audience, potentially anyone anywhere in the world could be bidding, so that's a big advantage. But it's still hard to create the momentum that you can create in a room with lots of people bidding.
Mm-hmm. Hey, you mentioned a term too that I'm not familiar with. It was fund a need. Is that basically? Can you give more details on that?
Yeah, there's a lot of names for the fund a need. Fund a mission, paddle raise. So it's something that started, I think, in the last 15 to 20 years. And basically, it's an opportunity for people to just give straight to the organization at the event. So it usually follows a compelling video or a speaker. So the idea is to get everybody in the room connected to the cause and emotional, and then say, okay, they usually start at the top. So let's say it's $10,000. Okay, we're going to try and raise $100,000 in the next 10 minutes. Who wants to give $10,000 right now? Raise your paddle. So it's just straight giving. And then they'll go down. How about 5,000? Raise your paddle if you'll give 2,500. Usually bottoms out around $100 or $50. Again, so that pretty much everyone has an opportunity to participate. We don't typically see everybody participating. You know, a lot of people may have gone and said, I want to buy something in a live auction. So they've you know, that's the way they want to participate.
Right, right.
So you kind of got to meet people where they want. Other people don't want to buy anything; they just want to write a check and raise their paddle in the fund to need. So that's what that is, and it can raise quite a bit of money. I think it's worthwhile including with a live auction, but not in lieu of one, because I do think that you need to appeal to both types of buyers.
Right. So give me an idea here. I know that probably every event is different, and it depends on who's showing, who the audience is, who's all that. There's all sorts of stuff. But can you give me an idea of what a successful event looks like? The timeline, what's there, who speaks first, what kind of things do you need to include? Alcohol was one thing you definitely mentioned, right? Like, and that's actually, I went to an auction once that was on behalf of the charity I was running, and yeah, that alcohol certainly helped towards the end of the night. Like, they were just having fun, and they had the funds to spend, and it was a competition. And these were people who did this. Like, they went to auctions and spent money and had fun with peers. But anyways, can you, outside of alcohol, can you give us an idea of what that looks like? What's the structure of the night? What's the agenda?
So yeah, it usually starts out with a cocktail hour. And this is time for people to arrive, get registered, buy raffle tickets if there's a raffle, go through the silent auction, bid on items in the silent auction, see their friends, mingle, drink, and just kind of enjoy themselves before if it's a sit-down dinner, before that part of the evening starts, and the real meat and potatoes of the night. So after a cocktail hour, they'll usually open the doors if there's a ballroom, if that's where it's being held, depends on the venue. Everyone sits down. Usually there's salads there or about to come out so people can start eating. And the executive director or the MC or whoever's kind of in charge of the night starts. I will say that another really important thing that we see that gets missed a lot is the sound system. It's really, really important that you have a very good sound system that everybody can hear in any part of the room, and that you are able to kind of keep people quiet when you need to keep them quiet. You're not going to keep them quiet for 2 or 3 straight hours. But when you do the live auction, when you do the fund to need, when you're showing the video or having someone speak, it's really important that people are not chit-chatting, and so that's a challenge, and it becomes that much more of a challenge if the sound system isn't good. I've been to a lot of events where you really couldn't hear the person unless you were really sitting close, so it's critical that, again, this is an area where a professional benefit auctioneer can help, because they live and die by the microphone. Right. And the quality of the sound. If people in the audience can't hear what you're saying, they might as well not be there from a fundraising standpoint. So that's really important. So it depends on, sometimes it's an award ceremony. They're going to give out awards. Other times they're going to have speakers. Other times they're going to show a video. But usually the live auction comes first, and then the fund to need. And, what's interesting to me, Steve, I didn't really grow up in this industry. I wasn't in this industry until the last few years. So I have a little more of an outsider's perspective. And one of the things I hear from organizations all the time is, we only want to have 5 live auction items because we don't want it to run too long, which I understand. I get that. They're really concerned about the run of show, and they don't want to spend too much time on the live auction. But the challenge is sometimes these organizations, let's say they have 250 or 500 people coming to the event. So they've got 5 items which they can sell once each or even twice. and they have 500 people there, that means that, 5 or 10 people out of 500 are going to walk away with something. So 98 to 99% of their captive audience doesn't get to participate in the live auction. And that never made any sense to me. And so that was part of the impetus behind us saying, okay, I know we don't want to have 30 or 50 live auction items because we'll be here all night and people get what's called donor fatigue. So they don't want to sit and listen to auction item number 17 they don't care. You lose them after, probably 10. But if you have an engaging professional benefit auctioneer and you have 10 items, why would you not have some that you could sell 10 times or 20 times or 50 times so that everyone can participate and you can get more money out of the room? Mm-hmm. So a lot of times it's not as much the timing of the run of show, that how can you be smart to have items, and this doesn't have to be our items, any items that you have that you can sell multiple times or an unlimited number of times to create a situation where you've got lots of winners that are very happy and walking away. So the live auction usually comes, there's usually some welcomes, speeches, people eat, and then the live auction, and then the live auction, and then they usually call it like the special appeal, and there'll be a video, there'll be some speakers who have benefited from the organization, really pulling on the heartstrings. The more emotional and compelling that is, the more money usually you're going to raise in the fund a need, because people are in that mode where they want to help, and you've got to ask right then, and then you do the fund a need, and then it's usually, either the evening's over or the entertainment begins. There's a band, or there's a DJ and there's music and dancing and it's a party. So it depends on the type of event that organizations throw, but people like to come out and have a good time. And if you can show them a good time, engage them in the cause, and don't be afraid to ask them to give, that with the other 3 critical success factors and a good sound system is going to be a good event.
Cool. That's great. That's a great outline. I'm sure people just took notes or mental notes of that one. But that I wrote it down. So let me ask you, I got 2 questions, and then I'll get on to the question I was hinting about earlier.
Okay.
But 2 real quick, the length of time, are we talking 3 hours, 4 hours, 2 hours of before you think you get kind of the donor fatigue, and how's that?
Yeah. So donor fatigue, we really see it come in the live auction. If sometimes there's, let's say, 15 items or 12 items, and you don't have, especially when you don't have a professional doing it who knows how to get through those quickly and keep people engaged, then what happens is by item number 7 or 8 or 10, people have stopped paying attention and they're talking to the person next to them, and you've lost the room because everyone's talking, and now you can't hear what they're saying because everyone's talking. And that's what I mean by donor fatigue. But also, if there are a lot of long speeches, sometimes organizations think, they want to just have everyone get up and tell their story, and it can be a little too much. They have to put themselves in the eyes of someone sitting there who wants to have a good time, wants to learn about the cause. But so I think showing a 5-minute video that's impactful is great. Having a couple speeches is great. But if you have 6 different people come up and talk for 20 minutes each, people are going to get bored generally. So the donor fatigue comes from the live auction that's too long, or if sometimes some benefit auctioneers will play games, heads or tails, different games, and sometimes those can take a long time. The fund a need can take a long time. If any of those things take too long, you could lose the room. So that's what I mean by donor fatigue.
Right.
Anytime when the donor, anyone in the room is sitting there going, I don't care about this. This is boring. I'm going to start talking to the person next to me because I'm not engaged.
are some of those items that you're, let's say do you organize the items so that like there's something exciting or something almost like what I did? I have a question, but I'm going to ask it at the end. Like the big items coming up, folks, and then another big up three. It's like just kind of, okay, well, people wait in anticipation.
Absolutely. I mean, even like we have a private island in Belize. Even if that's typically the last item and the buildup. And even if you're not bidding on that, you want to hear about it. You want to see who's going to spend $40,000 or $50,000 tonight on that trip, right. And people will watch and get excited about it. So you want to build up to something, and you want to hopefully every live auction item is greater than the last one and is compelling, and people are like, ooh, that's interesting. I want to hear more about that and see what it goes for.
Right. Yeah, that's great. And then one real quick question, and then I'll ask the final question. The auction items, when you guys are doing your auction, do you recommend that it's only your trips? Does it work better that way, or should people bring in all sorts of stuff from other live auction items?
No. We suggest that if they can get great donated trips, get them. I mean, it is rare that we are the only items in an auction, and typically if that occurs, they've never done a live auction before. Mm-hmm. They don't know where to go to get donated trips, or it's not just trips, any donated items,
products,
come from experiences, a puppy, whatever it may be, that come from board members or that donors or whomever. No, we always recommend that they get what they can get that's fully donated, and try and sell it as many times as they're allowed to as well. So we don't by any means believe that we should be the entire auction. We really look at it more like a tent pole, where we're kind of can get some tent pole items that broaden the base and make it easier, make it compelling for people to want to come to the event to try and bid on some of these, or to donate something of their own, because it's much more interesting to donate to an event that has a private island than has a car wash.
Right. Nice. Okay, that's good. Good answer. All right. So the final question. I'm sure everyone's waiting for this one. I'm a nonprofit, and this sounds great. How do I get involved? How do I have this happen for me? How would I get in touch with you to make sure that we can meet the criteria that would bring you to our next event?
You can reach out to us. I mean, you can go to our website. It's getaway2 with the number 2 give.com or .net, both work. And if you go to getaway2give.com/nonprofits, then we will have, there's more information for you there as well. And we'll have a charity fundraising director in your area reach out to you and see if we can help move the needle for your next event.
Cool. And so anyone can apply. So everyone listening to this show is like, yeah, we're our events in November. Let's contact these guys and see, like, absolutely, straight out.
Any charity or school.
Right. I think a lot of people right now are writing down Getaway to Give. I have .net on my browser, but .com you said works as well. So
yep.
Getaway to Give. Folks, there'll be links to this in the show notes to help you get to the site and get a hold of. How would we get a hold of you directly, or do we just fill out the form and it goes to who it needs to get to?
You know what? I love to speak with organizations all over the country and help wherever I can. Mm-hmm. So I will be happy to give you and your listeners, I'll give my cell phone number. And if they can't find us on the web, or they just want to call and ask me some questions, I'll give you my cell, which is 678-637-6980. And hopefully my phone blows up after this airs.
It's just me, yeah. 678-637-6987?
80.
Okay. Why did I write 7?
6980. Yep.
6980. Awesome. And then we'll have a link to your email. Is it just Adam at
my email address is adam.capes CAPES at getaway2give.com.
Okay. And again, folks, those will be linked in the show notes. So if you're out walking your dog or running right now,
And I need to get back to Alaska and come to Fairbanks and see you, Steve. So
that would be
I'll
awesome. You should
doing
come
that.
up here. I'm going to be on your website applying for this, no doubt.
Awesome.
Yeah, head on up here. I'd love that you can see my dogs and learn what we do up here. And
Some dog sledding, yeah.
yeah, definitely want to come in the winter. Summertime. I mean, summer's great, but winter is the reason to be here, at least for me. Hey, well, Adam, that was awesome and inspiring and truly innovative. I really appreciate you being on the program. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Love what you're doing.